should mention that Haruhi's fleet had been set to the parameters speed 20, defense 60, attack 20. Basically, we would lose the instant her units were destroyed, so we had no choice but to prioritize defense. The plan was for the combatants, Nagato, Koizumi, and me, who were running 33, 33, 34, and balanced distribution, to fight on the front lines, while Haruhi chilled in the back to buy us time. But the second I took my eyes off her, we ended up in a situation at the start of this story where she kept trying to charge ahead. And now, as I mentioned briefly in the beginning, the simulation game between the Computer Society and the SOS Brigade was about to see its first combat. Fine then, I'll stay back for now, but you better beat the crap out of our opponents. Mikuru, you can watch the show with me. Oh, you're right. Asahina nodded meekly from her position on my left before whispering softly to me in a sweet and breathy voice. Please do your best, Kion. Her words of encouragement were enough to spur me into 100 different ways of exerting myself. If the flagship fleet in our armada had been the Mikuru fleet, I would have been more than happy to eat every missile that came her way. Unfortunately, I was obligated to serve a tyrannical despot who would have been the first warlord to start a revolt during the feudal period. It's too bad that this game doesn't come with the option to switch sides. I don't have a choice. I can only focus on dealing with the enemies before me. 15 hours. Nagato was beating on her keyboard. Her fingers were moving too fast to see. Literally. It appeared that she didn't intend to waste any time on a bulky peripheral device such as a mouse. At some point, Nagato had written her own macros for the day of Sagittarius 3 that allowed her to directly command her fleet through keyboard inputs. As a result, the Yuki fleet was battling as furiously as the great general Belisarius under Emperor Justinian's Byzantine Empire. However, she was seriously outnumbered. We were only able to field 3 individual units, the Yuki fleet, the Koizumi fleet, and the Kyon fleet, in battle, while the enemy had 4 fleets out and about, with the exception of Dies Irae Enemy A. If there is one thing that history has taught us, it's this: wars are won by numbers. If we're starting at a numerical disadvantage of 3 against 4, our chances of enjoying a post-victory champagne fight are slim. Still, it wouldn't do to throw Haruhi and Asahina into the fray. That would only make it easier for our opponents to slaughter the entire armada in one fell swoop. The enemy appears to be using a V formation in an attempt to draw us out. Chief Officer Koizumi was whispering into my ear. The enemy formation is designed to trap us if we pursue. I would suggest we hold our positions and follow a defensive strategy. Makes sense, sure. I'm fine with it. But what will Haruhi say? Besides, I looked over Asahina's head to sneak a glance at the intelligence officer Nagato's distinct profile. I wasn't sure why. However, oddly enough, Nagato appeared to be asserting herself in a way I've never seen before. Though the game had just started and her expression was neutral as always, the units of Yuki fleet were already very active, moving around the screen and clearing operational objectives. What was it about the day of Sagittarius 3 that had stirred Nagato's heart so? Nagato hadn't been lying when she said that she was going to analyze this game. The alien artificial humanoid, who could be classified as apathy incarnate, knew every last detail about the Computer Society's original game. It was possible that she knew more about it than the people who actually made it. From her perspective, the computers found in modern Earth civilizations might as well be pre-industrial revolution relic from an assembly line. Using them was like twisting the arm of a baby. Still, I had to wonder why the glint in Nagato's eyes had shifted from listless black to glittering silver. Nagato was displaying extraordinary determination as she pounded away at the keyboard relentlessly, as though this were a typing game. Her eyes were constantly darting around the screen as she ditched the handy GUI for a small console in the corner of the back of the screen. She typed in commands at finger-breaking speed. The Yuki fleet was constantly changing position and deploying scout vessels in a sweeping effort to locate the advancing enemy. Despite that, the only enemies located so far were Enemy B and Enemy C, the two fleets positioned right in front of our Imperial Armada. Nagato was engaged in a skirmish with those two fleets while holding the front line up by herself. No time to stand around. Need to back her up. And with that I set the Kyon fleet into motion, which was when I suddenly found myself caught in a rain of beams from the side. "The hell?" I blurted. "Whoa there," Koizumi remarked. I looked to see that his Koizumi fleet was also being bombarded from the port side. Enemy D and Enemy E had practically come out of nowhere to flank Koizumi and me from both sides. We counted for the number of vessels, and my Kyon fleet was shrinking rapidly. "What are you doing?" Haruhi yelled at me through her yellow megaphone. "Fire back at them already! Counterattack!" Don't need you to tell me that. These guys were clearly experienced enough to sneak past Nagato's network of scouts, but that didn't mean we were going to just lie down and surrender. I ordered my Kyon fleet to change directions and turn 90 degrees to starboard. Then I waited for the enemy to come into range of my weapons before opening fire with everything. But in that very moment, Enemy E made a prompt U-turn and disappeared into the dark reaches of space. I was pretty pissed, so I sent a scout vessel in pursuit, but I wasn't able to find any trace of them. Damn, they got away. It looked as if they were using a hit-and-run strategy with their fleets that had their speed parameters jacked up. Enemy D, which had been attacking Koizumi fleet from the starboard side, also disappeared with the same timing. I see B and C skirmishing with the Yuki fleet were merely a diversion, while D and E were their main force. And their flagship fleet, Enemy A, was hiding somewhere and not even participating in the battle. That was their plan. I'm scared. Asahina had managed to clumsily send her own fleet into the corner of the screen. If she gets too far away from us, we'll lose our supply line and end up without any functioning weapons. But at this rate, the battle will be finished before we get a chance to worry about running out of energy or missiles. The Computer Society Federation has held the initiative the entire time. After that, the flankers, Enemy D and Enemy E, continue to harass Kyon fleet and Koizumi fleet like stray dogs, who keep returning around dinner time after tasting leftovers once. If we tried to pursue, they would launch a bunch of homing missiles before escaping, which was a rather frustrating tactic that left us to flounder around. They were trying to whittle down our forces while avoiding direct confrontation, exactly what Haruhi hated the most. Meanwhile, Yuki fleet continued to advance alone by deftly eluding the wave of attacks from Enemy B and Enemy C, while executing a probing counterattack with effective results. If it weren't for her fleet, the rest of us would be reduced to bits of interstellar matter floating through the void of space. Even if we lose, she deserves an award for bravery. It looked like Nagato wasn't even breathing as she stared at her monitor. Her abuse of the keyboard didn't stop for a single moment. The Computer Society guys must have been surprised, since I was surprised myself. Had to wonder if Haruhi's hatred of losing had spread to Nagato. 16:30 hours. We were bogged down into a stalemate now. The Computer Society had realized it would be difficult to deal with the vanguard of Yuki fleet, so Enemy B was left to focus on Nagato while the three other fleets, with the exception of their flagship fleet, Enemy A, whose whereabouts were still unknown, began attacking us from both sides alternatively in interval waves. I had to be impressed by the level of coordination displayed by C, D, and E. When we turned our attention to C, D would strike from the opposite side. Once we switched to pursue D, E would suddenly pop out from a third direction to fire its beams at us. This was about as much fun as playing a fighting game against an experienced pro who didn't know how to hold back. I would ask them to go easy on us, but there were multiple computers riding on this match. However, the situation was considerably dire. As mentioned before, I put our chances of winning at less than 10%, but I still expected there to be a good show at least. Fire at one like crazy before exploding into a giant fireball, or the whole "we lost but we put up a good fight so everything's okay" kind of thing. But instead, we have this painful battle of attrition. I can't take this any longer. I suppose I should have seen this coming. Haruhi finally snapped and began to rattle off simple and clear orders to the flagship fleet under her command. All ships, full speed ahead! Kyon, get out of my way! I'm gonna find the enemy boss and beat him to a pulp! Her Excellency Haruhi Fleet attempted to cut between Kyon Fleet and Koizumi Fleet. Koizumi and I moved together instantly to create like a school of small fish to stop her advance. What are you doing? Koizumi, you're going to interfere with my magnificent battle? Just get out of my way. I will leave you as your position as chief officer. That would be problematic. Koizumi made no move to shift his fleet from its position blocking Haruhi's path. Your Excellency, please allow us to handle this. I, your humble servant, vow to protect your Excellency until the moment I've drawn my last breath. You are free to dispose of me as you wish once the battle's over. Right. I backed Koizumi up. If you want to improve our chances of winning, stay back. We haven't found the enemy flagship yet. So I'll go find him then. He's probably somewhere around... She pointed at the edge of her monitor, which we couldn't see. Here! So we'll head straight there, and we fellow bigwigs will have it out mano a mano. I couldn't tell where she planned on heading, but Her Excellency Haruhi Fleet wouldn't have a chance to get there before she was torn apart like a beehive attacked by a bear about to go into hibernation. Haruhi continued to push her fleet up as she thrust with the hand that was clutching the mouse. Nothing will change if we just sit around. I've been watching your pathetic attempts this whole time. Your Kyon fleet keeps letting the enemy get away, and you've been losing forces in the process. Looks like I need to take charge. Could you stop that? I was busy using my fleet to block out her flagship fleet's path, while Koizumi happened to be doing the same thing on the other side. The 3 fleets by the Computer Society Federation may have noticed as they continued their successive hit-and-run attacks. Asahina had gotten her Mikuru fleet completely lost in the void of space long ago. Where am I? I can't tell left from right now. Asahina was sitting on my right, was close to tears as she looked between her screen and mine. Where did everyone go? Yes, I'm very sorry, Asahina. I can only say that you are free to wander wherever you please. Her Excellency Haruhi Fleet was practically tailgating Kyon Fleet, so I couldn't move at all. Since I had essentially become Haruhi's shield, the unrelenting enemy attack was whittling down the triangle that represented my unit. Out of the way! I couldn't even if I wanted to. The heartless Koizumi fleet had made its withdrawal before Haruhi could rear-end him, and was now exchanging fire with enemy D, feigning ignorance. You're gonna make me hold Haruhi back by myself? Damn. I clicked the left mouse button furiously while moving the pointer around the screen randomly in an attempt to free my fleet from the Her Excellency Haruhi fleet. The triangle for Kyon fleet was noticeably smaller as it changed direction at the speed of a slug on a stroll, and during this time the enemy had a lock on my fleet and was firing beams and missiles like crazy. We've lost. I wanted to make it clear that I had no choice but to surrender at this point. With this girl as our commander, any chance of victory we'd had was long gone. An organization cannot operate smoothly without a composed leader at the top, and this applies to pretty much everything in life. I mean, I'm not entirely sure, but isn't that how it works? As I bickered with Haruhi in both the real world and the virtual world, there was one SOS Brigade member with a firm grasp of the situation, who stayed calm and continued playing the game. Or so I thought. I finally realized this wasn't the case when I noticed the fingers of the brigade member sitting at the end of the table, accelerating to a speed so fast you'd have to record her with a high-sensitivity camera and play the footage back in slow motion to see what was going on. It was Haruhi's duty and exclusive right to build up frustration to a point where she exploded, but this time that didn't seem to be true. The most excited person in this room, at the moment, was our SOS Brigade's knowledgeable intelligence officer and book-loving literary club member, Yuki Nagato. 16:35 hours. What? I couldn't believe the sudden activity on my monitor as a foolish-sounding yelp escaped my lips. The hell is this? The forces of the SOS Empire now had a field of vision that was 3 times larger than it had been a moment ago. We could even see the current positions of ever-elusive enemies C, D, and E. One was on the left wing taking aim at Quesmi's unit. One was in the process of turning around after making its escape. The other was advancing on the entangled Kyon fleet and Her Excellency Haruhi fleet. Still, my focus was on the reason we were now able to see these enemy movements. Yuki fleet had split into 20 units. Well. Koizumi's admiration sounded hollow to me. Nagato never ceases to amaze me. She actually picked up on this feature. I also considered using it at one point, but it was so complex I'd abandoned the idea in the draft stage. Wait, Koizumi, I said. Was this in the instruction manual? It was. In the very back. I can teach you how it works. First, you need to press and hold the control key and the F4 key while using the numpad to enter how many units you want to divide your fleet into. No, that's enough. I'm not going to bother with it. I looked back at the monitor. The triangle corresponding to the Yuki fleet had shriveled up like it'd been hit by some kind of shrink ray. Instead, I guess there were 20 of those smaller triangles. I tried clicking one with a mouse pointer, and the caption Yuki Fleet 12 came up. Micromanagement? Well, of the little triangles numbered 1 through 20, some were continuing to exchange fire with enemy B, some were threading the gaps in the enemy fleet to explore the unmapped area of space, and some had turned around to assist the hard-pressed Kyon fleet. Koizumi, explain this. Well, you see, we're allowed to divide our fleet up into 2 or more groups and control them separately, up to a maximum of 20, I believe. That's what it said in the instruction manual. How does that help? As you can see, our scouting capacity has improved significantly since we've essentially added an additional 20 pairs of eyes. And there's more. For instance, by dividing your fleet into 2 groups, one can serve as a decoy while the other circles behind the enemy. However, the disadvantages trump the advantages, so the Computer Society chose not to employ this tactic. Koizumi drew his face near mine as he whispered in a voice that Haruhi couldn't hear. This method requires one person to control multiple units. When you focus one unit, the others are sitting around like wooden dolls. Thus, controlling 20 of these groups at the same time is beyond human ability. I pictured the flabbergasted looks on the sides of my face as the residents of the rooms next door as I looked to my side. Hey, Naga! The static beat of Nagato's pounding away at the keyboard with her fingers had elevated from a noisy clatter to a roaring rumble. If you hit so hard, it'll break. Asahina offered a timid warning, but Nagato didn't even give her a glance. I followed her gaze to discover that there wasn't even a game window on her laptop screen. Instead, there were a bunch of white characters on a black background, looking something like a BIOS setup menu on one of those ancient computers, and the text was scrolling by incredibly fast. Yes. Nagato didn't even look at me as she questioned my gaze. Yeah. Miss Nagato, what exactly might you be doing? There was so much psychological pressure from the sight of Nagato beating away at the keyboard that my mental ramblings were forced to take a more respectful tone. I took a quick glance at my own monitor to confirm that the 20 Yuki fleet offspring were dancing around animatedly like T-stalks brought to life as they trifled with the enemy. There was no longer the issue of being unable to see the map. Wait, I'm pretty sure I told you not to cheat. I am not, Nagato murmured in a neutral tone. Then she finally turned to look up at me for the first time, though her fingers never missed a beat. No special data manipulation is occurring. I am abiding by the set rules. Asahina was leaning her small frame back in an apparent attempt to avoid Nagato's gaze. Nagato continued to stare into my eyes. I have not taken any action that is not allowed by this simulation program. Really? Sorry about that then. I could sense this terrifying aura emanating from her short hair. However, the expression on Nagato's face was as inorganic as always, so I was expecting her usual yes, followed by utter silence, but this time she continued speaking. An indictment of the enemy. The actions of the computer society are what would be considered cheating. At that moment, how did he manage to successfully disengage her units from the units of Kyon Fleet? So slow! Why am I so slow? Will it speed up if I pour an energy drink on the computer? It was clear that she was engrossed in jaunting up the front lines of her fleet. I leaned over to Asahina to whisper my question to Nagato. What do you mean they're cheating? Nagato didn't let up on her high-speed blind typing for a second as she gave her detached reply. They are utilizing commands that do not exist in our computers, which afford them an advantage in this simulated space battle. What do you mean? Nagato fell silent for a moment and blinked as though she were collecting her thoughts. Their fog of war is off. A murmur that was elaborated in the same soft tone. According to her explanation, the fog of war had been turned off for the Computer Society at the beginning of the game. Naturally, there was no such convenient option in our version. I don't even know what the difference would be, though. What does this mean? With the fog of war on, players are obligated to scout the map. When fog of war is off, that is no longer required. They have minimized their scouting efforts as they have become unnecessary. What does that even mean? With the fog of war off, all areas of the map are eliminated, meaning the entire map, including our positions, was visible from the beginning. That was easy to understand, for a Nagato explanation. That is not all. The stony-faced, alien-made life form continued her spiel in a different voice. Based on what she said, the Computer Society Federation fleets were equipped with a warp function. That would explain how they were able to pop up at the perfect time. They had a 500-year jump on the SOS Brigade and the SOS Empire in terms of technology. It'd be like pitting infantry from the Warring States period against the Japanese Ground Self-Defense Force 7th Division. We never had a chance to win, huh? Yes. Nagato confirmed my suspicion. Defeat was our only option. Was, huh? Past tense. So, what about now? I was hoping that she'd reiterate that sentence in the present tense, but the sight of faint emotion staring in Nagato's black eyes for the first time ever left me scratching my head a bit. But you know, Nagato, I would prefer that you don't use your alien powers. I understand they pulled a fast one on us. Still, if we use that as a reason to use further bogus magic, that'll make us no better than them. No, we'd be below them, since your tricks break the physical laws of this planet. I am not disobeying your instructions. Nagato's reply came instantly. I only wish to apply alterations to the program that conform to the current level of technology on Earth. No modifications will be made to the union of data in known space. Countermeasures will be implemented against the Computer Society. Permission? Are you talking to me? You are the one who set restrictions on my data processing capabilities. It's been half a year since we first met. I don't mean to brag, but over the past 6 months I've become competent enough to pick up on the slight emotional changes, assuming that she's even capable of feeling emotion, behind that taciturn mask of hers. Right now, Nagato's pale face was clearly showing a picogram's worth of determination. Asahina was gaping at me in surprise. Koizumi's eyes were also on me, but he had a wry smile on his face. Haruhi was the only one yelling by herself while unloading her beams and missiles. At this rate, she would run out of ammunition in the middle of the enemy formation. There wasn't much time for me to make up my mind. How do I respond? That question only required a few seconds of deliberation. Nagato was eager to do this. This was the first time I'd ever seen her like this. I couldn't help but feel that this was a good sign. An organic android created by the data overmind that was identical in every way to an ordinary human. It was possible that she developed the cliché robotic desire to become a human. And I didn't see any problem with that. Okay, Nagato, go for it. I gave her a smile of encouragement as I issued my figurative seal of approval. You're free to do whatever you want as long as it's within human capability. Deal the computer society a crushing blow. End this the way Haruhi would want, so they never come back to complain again. Nagato stared at me for a long time. At least, it felt like a long time to me. Yes. And with that exceedingly short response, Nagato hit the enter key, and just like that, the tables were instantly turned.